Ceramics A. Welcome to, what is this, week 5 of ceramics class. It's our second to last week. This week is going to be a more traditional hybrid week with 11th and 12th graders here who are hybrid students being here every other day. People who are VLA are working from home. And then on Friday, we're going to have our Google Meet. And so Friday, we're going to do kind of more of what we normally would do back before there was hybrid. So we're going to have a Google Meet on Friday. So we'll be meeting during the 3rd hour time period. So be ready for that, please. On Friday, everybody, hybrid, VLA, everybody is going to have to tune into that Google Meet, please, because I miss you. I want to be able to talk to you guys. So today I'm just going to catch up on a few things, and then we're going to jump into our new project, which is our last project. So first of all, I missed some birthdays last week. And so Lily, Thomas, and Lydia, happy birthday to you. I wish I could give you a donut. I wish I could sing to you. I hope you had a magnificent birthday. So I'm very sorry that I missed it. Second, one of the attendance questions last week had some riddles in it, and I never gave you the answers of those riddles, and the answer is the best part. So the first riddle was, what is always in front of you and yet you can't see it? The answer is the future. The future. Some of you had really good guesses, but the answer is the future. And then the second riddle was what walks on 4 legs in the morning, 2 legs in the afternoon, and 3 legs in the evening. And the answer is humans, because we crawl at the beginning of our lives, we walk on 2 legs through the midpoint of our lives, and then we have a cane in the latter part of our life, which I am super close to. So that's the answer to the riddle. Another one of your attendance questions had to do with naming snowplows in Minnesota. My favorite was Obi-Wan Kenobi. Wait, was Obi-Wan? Snowy-Wan Kenobi. That's what it was. I can't even remember my favorite thing. Snowy-Wan Kenobi was my favorite. So we have 2 more weeks of voting before we see which names won. So thank you to all those of you who participated or came up with your own names for that. So, okay, that kind of catches us up on dumb stuff. Also, I dyed my hair. That's kind of a dumb thing. It's orange. I love it. Okay, so the next thing I want to catch you up on, those of you who have brought in projects to fire, they are all fired. And so they're just waiting for you to come and glaze them. So I'm going to invite you any afternoon this week. So school gets done at 1:35. So anytime between 1:35 and 3:00 p.m., you can come into the school. I think you can get in the south entrance. I'm not sure, but you can for sure get in the main entrance by the attendance office. Come on up here and you can glaze your animals. Maybe some of you want to bring in your bowl project and glaze and have me fire, and then you can glaze your bowl project. Next week, when more hybrid kids are coming back, the 9th and 10th graders, you can bring your stuff back to fire and glaze then, but you're kind of short on time if you're not bringing it back till that final week. So I would highly advise you, if you want to fire your work, to drop it off this week, and then you can glaze once it's been bisque fired. And like I said, everything that you brought in to this point has been fired and is ready to glaze. So if you've already brought something in, come in any day to glaze, and I'll show you what it is that you need to know about glazing. Lots of different beautiful glazes for you to choose from. And here's the nice thing. You know that bowl project that you just did? If you really like how that turned out and you want to glaze it so that the designs that you did with string show up really well, I have glazes that are transparent and see-through, and they'll show off that design. If you don't like how that design came out, but you still like the bowl shape, I have glazes that are totally solid and see-through. And so you can use those glazes. You can just dunk it right in the bucket, and it'll cover up your design, and it'll just be a nice bowl, and you won't see the design. So there's lots of different ways that you can glaze things. And so if you are at all interested in that, maybe reach out and let me know that you plan on coming in, so I know when to expect people, and so I can be ready with the glazes handy. So that, I think, ties up a lot of our little loose ends. Last thing I'm going to say before I jump into the new stuff for today. There's a lot of you that are missing a lot of assignments. So I'm going to implore you, implore you to work really hard these next 2 weeks to be able to get all that missing work done, because I don't want to have to give you a bad grade, but there's not a lot that I can do if the grades aren't there, if the assignments aren't there. So please work really hard, look through your camera roll, get everything uploaded. I promise I won't take any points off for it being late. I just want you to pass my class, okay? I want to do what I can to help you pass my class, and it's really hard when I'm not there with you. So please do what you can to get all those missing assignments in, even just a few of the missing assignments in, to sneak that grade up a little bit higher. And if you are really struggling and just don't even know where to start, please reach out to me and we can set something up to help you, okay? So, all right, that was my impassioned plea for those of you who are behind to get your butts in gear and get caught up. Thank you. Okay, so new project for today. You need your ceramic notebook. If you don't have it yet, please get it now, and something to write with, please. I am going to share my screen with you and introduce your last project, which is the coiled vessel. So unfortunately, we had to skip the cup project, the Kurinuki cup project, because we missed so much school this trimester that you had way less time than all my other classes. So, so we're skipping right to the last project, the coiled vessel. So on that next clean page in your notebook, please write coiled vessel project. There's going to be some notes today, and we're going to watch a little video, look at some images, and we're going to get some good ideas today. So first, some new vocabulary. So please pause the video and take a couple minutes to get these new terms into your notebook. Great. All right, your first new term is coil building. That's the technique you're going to be using for the next several days. Coil building is building a hollow pot by rolling and stacking ropes of clay. And a really nice thing about coil building is it's extremely versatile. So you can make virtually any form you can dream up using coils. Whereas with the mold project that we just did with the bowl, you are really locked in to one shape, that shape of the bowl. So the coil project is going to be really nice because you get a lot more choice in what your shape and what your form looks like. Term number 2 is vessel. A vessel is a 3-dimensional object meant to hold something. So when I talk about this project, I'm going to be talking about a vessel because it's really open-ended, because what you can make for this project can be almost, well, you're kind of going to be choosing between 3 forms. So it's really kind of up to you what type of vessel you make. One of the vessels you could make is a vase. One of the vessels you could make is a mug. And one of the vessels you could make is a pitcher, which is kind of a combination of a vase and a mug. So, so when I say a vessel, it is a 3-dimensional object meant to hold something, meant to hold liquid in this case. Term number 3 is form. A form is a 3-dimensional object. So you're going to be choosing the form of a mug or the form of a vase or the form of a pitcher for this project. In that form, that 3-dimensional object, you are going to have planes. And in ceramics, what a plane is a 2-dimensional surface. So a plane is a 2-dimensional surface, like this piece of paper. But if I curl that piece of paper, now all of a sudden my 2-dimensional surface becomes 3-dimensional. And so you're going to be creating these curved surfaces by placing coils on top of each other. And the type of curved surfaces or planes that you're going to make are convex planes and concave planes. And just like in science class, a convex plane is a curved 2-dimensional surface that bulges outward like a convex lens. A concave plane is the opposite of that. It's a curved 2-dimensional surface that slopes inward like a concave lens. And the reason this is relevant in what you're going to be doing is you're going to be controlling the form of your vessel. So you're going to be making that form come slowly outward to become convex. And then you're going to be bringing it slowly inward to make it concave. So your form is not just going to be straight up and down. It's going to be gently bulging outward and convex, and gently sloping inward to become concave. So that's what's going to give this form some interest and some complexity in the shape. Okay, so in a nutshell, just very briefly, what you're going to be doing is you're going to be rolling several coils of clay about the thickness of your pointer finger. You're going to be stacking those coils on top of each other, scoring, slipping, and melding as you go. And in this picture here, you can see how the form is gently starting to slope outward. It's starting to get wider. It's starting to get convex. And so that's something you're going to be able to control based on where you're placing your coils. Here you see the form is now starting to get more narrow. It's becoming concave up at the top. So that's what I mean by making your form convex and concave. You're going to be controlling what bulges outward and what slopes inward. And then once you have got a few coils in place, you're going to be melding everything. So smoothing it all together. So the end result is going to be more smooth, like you see this pot here. But one hallmark of a coiled pot is they're delightfully wonky. So if you can't get the most extra special, symmetrical, perfect pot, you're not supposed to get the most extra special, symmetrical, perfect pot. Coil building is a human technique. We are humans and we have our own, different pressure and perspectives. And this is not a machine-made pot. So I want you to throw out the door the fact or the idea that this has to be a perfect pot. See how this one just has some little flares and bumps and nicks and little things that make it have personality. That's what I'm interested in, the humanity of this pot that you make and the humanity of the human who made the pot, which is you. So don't sweat it if your piece isn't 100% perfect. Work on it as best you can to smooth it and streamline it. But if it doesn't have the machine-like precision of a factory-made pot, good, because that kind of pot does not have a soul. This pot you see on the screen with all its delightful little flaws has a soul. And that's what we want our pottery to have. We want it to have life and to show that a human made it, not a machine. So you do not have to write this part down, but I think it's kind of interesting, and I'm going to refer to these things as we're working, so I think it's interesting for you to note. Somewhere in ceramic history, many, many, many thousands of years ago, somebody decided that a typical kind of traditional vase kind of looks like a human. A fat little human, but it kind of looks like a human. It's kind of anthropomorphic is the fancy name for that. So consequently, we name parts of our pots after parts of the human body. So when we talk about the bottom part that elevates your pot, we call that the foot, which you learned in the last project. When we talk about the fattest part of the pot, that's the body, just like on us humans. It's the fattest part of us is our main chunk of our body. The part that slopes inward on the pot is called the shoulder, just like our shoulders slope inward. The skinniest upper part of the pot is called the neck, just like our neck is our skinniest upper part of our body. And then the opening of the pot is called the mouth, which you don't see here. And the part that encircles the mouth is the lip. So when you're working on your coiled vessel, you can refer to these body parts on your pot because that's what a professional artist would do. All right, these are the requirements for this vessel. So please draw a line underneath the vocab that you wrote earlier, and now write down these 4 requirements because you're going to have these in your mind as you're planning out your form today. So first requirement, it's going to be built entirely by scoring, slipping, and melding. That's what SSM means. Scoring, slipping, and melding coils. It's going to be smooth on the inside and the outside. Second requirement, it must have convex and concave planes, which means the form needs to go in at some point, and then the form needs to get wider at some point. And that could be just slightly wider or slightly narrower. It doesn't have to be a dramatic out and in. It can be a subtle out and in, just so you can show me that you can control where you place the coils and where the form of the vessel goes. Next requirement, it needs to be at least 6 inches tall. So 6 inches tall is about right here where my finger is on this ruler. That is not very tall. Previously, when my students have had more time on this project, I asked them to make it 8 inches tall. So you guys are getting away with making a little bit shorter vessel here. And so consequently, I really want you to spend a lot of time getting your coils right and trying to refine it as best you can. And then the width of it needs to be at least 4 inches wide. So if you're making a mug or something like that, it needs to be at least 4 inches wide, and that's the body of the vessel. The handle is extra width, and that's just icing on the cake. And then final requirement, this vessel that you create needs to have at least one handle. So that's part of what I'm asking you in this unit, is to design something that has a handle. So it could be a mug, which would have one handle, or it could be a vase, which could have two handles, or it could be a pitcher, which would have one handle. So that's part of the task that I am setting for you with this unit. So make sure you have these 4 requirements written in your notes so it's really clear to you as you start to do your sketching in a little bit. So just looking at some examples of what this could look like, here are some vases. These vases all have 2 handles. Maybe your handle is going to be big and functional. Maybe your handle is going to be small and more decorative. It's really up to you. Here are some pitchers. A pitcher, remember, is a pouring vessel, something you would make and serve your lemonade out of. And so a pitcher has a lip that's flared up a little bit, and that becomes the spout. And then it has a single handle on the side opposite the spout, so you can easily pick it up and pour out of it. Or you could decide to make a mug for this project, and the mug still would need to have the convex and the concave curve to it, and it would have a single handle that would be meant for 1 or 2 or 3 fingers to be able to fit inside that handle. So the handle is something that gets added almost at the very end of the project. So as you're doing your planning today, I do want you to think about and draw and plan out what the handle might look like. But just keep in mind that when you start coiling, the handle will not be part of what you coil initially. You'll build the body of your mug first, or the body of your vase or body of your pitcher, and the handle will be added almost at the very end. Oh, here are a few more examples. If you're going to choose to do a mug or a teacup, I would almost encourage you, especially if you're looking to challenge yourself, maybe make a set of mugs that are the same size and shape and have the same type of handle, so that you can give one have one yourself and then give one to someone that you love, or maybe make one for every member of your family. It's really up to you. Once you get the coiling process down, it's fairly quick. And so if you want to make more than one, especially if you're doing a mug, if you're doing a vase or a pitcher, that could be possibly a little bit of a bigger form. But if you're doing a mug and it's only 6 inches, you're going to be able to coil 6 inches, honestly, fairly quickly. So these are some examples of matching mugs. And the pink ones on the right, one of the mugs has a coffee pour over. So this is a way that you can make coffee. If you don't have a coffee pot, you take a filter, a coffee filter, and you put it inside that pour over, and then you put some coffee grounds in there, and then you pour hot water over the top of it. And at the bottom of that cone, at the top of the pour over, are 3 little holes. So as you pour the hot water into the pour over, the water percolates the coffee, and then the coffee drips down through those 3 holes into your mug. So it's kind of like making really fresh coffee, kind of like a French press makes really fresh coffee. And so if you want to do that for extra credit and make a second mug or a pour over to go with your mug that sits on top of your mug, that would be an awesome challenge for those of you who want to challenge yourself and really want to do, like, pull out all the stops for your last project. So just a suggestion, not a requirement. Okay, I'm going to play a little video for you now about how to coil build, just so you really have a good idea of what you're in store for here. So please watch along.
Howdy folks, today we're going to talk about how to make a coil pot. I love utilizing the coil method because it allows me to make pots on a much larger scale. In a separate video, we'll cover working large, but today we're going to work small. Either way, whether you're making a large pot or a small pot, the same basic methodology still applies. Let's get started. The tools that you'll need for this assignment are tar paper, rolling pin, sponge, round dowels, a compass or a divider, a serrated metal rib, a trimming stick, a needle tool, and some clay.
Don't worry about all those tools.
Your first plan of attack should be drafting out what you intend to create. I want to make a shapely pot with lots of curvature and a skinny, narrow neck. I'll draw what I envision in my head onto a piece of paper. If you're stuck for ideas, simply do a Google search by typing in vase vectors. You can also do a search for silhouettes. This will provide you with thousands of vase forms to choose from. Keep in mind what your drawing will be to scale, meaning the pot will roughly be the same size as your drawing, so take plenty of measurements as you go. Next, measure the base of the pot. Find the halfway point and draw a line separating your pot in half. Now cut your template around the shape of the pot. I'm going to choose my favorite side and pick that shape to build, as my drawing wasn't necessarily symmetrical, though it didn't really need to be. I'll trace my form onto a heavier stock so that I can withstand the damages that might occur during the building process. Cut out your new template, and again, just half of your drawing should be represented. So now I'm going to take a measurement of the base of my drawing, which comes in a little over 2 inches. I know that I'm going to need a little bit larger base than that to support the form, so I'm going to increase my diameter to about 3 1/4. But really, everybody's base is going to be different. So I want you to notice how I've flattened out my clay. This is a great way to prepare my clay for using a rolling pin. If you don't have a rolling pin, this method of creating a slab can suffice. Just don't go too thin. About 1/4 inch will work. Use a compass or a divider to trace the circle of your base, and then cut it out all the way down with a 90-degree angle to avoid a bevel. Once the base is cut, you can smooth it out if you feel like you need to do so. So here comes the most crucial part in making a coil pot, making the coil. To make a good coil, elongate the clay in your hand before rolling it onto the table. Place your clay onto the table and start to evenly apply pressure as you rock your clay back and forth. Spread your fingers to increase surface area pressure. Try your best to make sure the thickness of the coil is even. If the coil is too thin, your pot will sag as you build it up. If the coil is too thick, your pot will be really heavy. I make coils about the thickness of my largest finger because I know that I'm going to shave a fair amount and trim clay away later on. When adding your first coil, score the surface that you'll attach to and apply slip, and then score once more. Slipping and scoring is a great way to assure your coils stay together. However, I don't always use slip. In fact, too much slip can introduce too much moisture into the pot and make it unstable as I build up. So don't overdo it with the slip. Again, once the coil is placed, take some time to blend the coil and your base together both inside and out. Let's take this moment to talk about coil placement. Where you place your coils will dictate the shape of the pot. Here we're looking at a vase thrown by one of my favorite potters, Phil Rogers. If this was a coil pot, and I'm starting from the base, notice how the first coil should flare out slightly around the outside edge of the base. As I build up, I'm going to continue the outward trajectory until I get to the shoulder. Then my coils will start to go on the inner rim of the previous coil. You'll want to be careful of angles that move abruptly inward. The previous layer should be leather hard, or cheese hard, as Josh Dewey says, enough to withstand the pressure of my future coiling. And lastly, I usually finish pots with an elegant, flared out rim. So getting back to my coil pot here, I'm constantly checking my coils to make sure they suit my template. When adding coils, you can blend as you go, or stack a few coils on and then blend them all together at once. Really, it's your choice. Also, don't be discouraged if your coil pot looks like a pinch pot at first. They typically look pretty rough, but with a lot of forming and smoothing, they start to look better after a while. One tool that'll help you smooth out your coil pot is a serrated metal rib. One of the ironies of working with clay is that you'll have to rough up the surface to smooth it out. The serrated metal rib will help eliminate all of those major ridges. Then, take a slightly dampened sponge and smooth out the clay in a circular motion. Also, don't worry too much about how groggy the surface gets. We'll take care of that later. Sometimes it takes a few class periods to make a lot of progress, so I'll speed up the footage so that you can watch the process take shape. Oh, I am more than a name. So right here, I'm using a metal rib, pressing up against the outside to clean up and further blend my clay walls together.
This is where you'll use your plastic tart. He's always holding his template up to the form.
Again, I can't emphasize this enough. Make sure you're constantly checking your pot against its template. The worst thing that you could do here is just wing it and see what happens. Somebody told me to believe and baptize. From Hawaii to the city lights. Somebody told me to believe. When you're done for the day, make sure to bag your work so that it doesn't dry too much by day 2. On day 2, or later on in your making process, continue building as usual. Just make sure those previous layers are leather hard enough to withstand the new pressure that you're adding on. If the light ends out on the road, there's a story meant to be told. And the door is shut in the cold. From Ohio to the state. Using a blow dryer to firm up the previous layers to continue building is an acceptable approach to speeding up the making process. Just be careful not to dry it out too much. So I'm near the end of my build and I've matched my template pretty closely, but I'm noticing the top of my template doesn't look the way that I want it to. I need to now make the decision of if I'm going to freeform it, which is exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to decide what looks best and abandon my template. What I've done here is I've prepared an 8-ounce wheel thrown stack, and I'm going to place it on the top of my previous build in a centralized position and smooth it in much like I would a coil.
Obviously, you're not going to have that luxury.
Now I'm doing a stack like I would a pot on the wheel. I usually opt for elegant flared rims, but I wanted this to be a straight and skinny neck, so I'm going to throw the top almost as if I would a teapot spout. I understand that most of my students won't have this option. Most of my students will be working on a banding wheel, or no wheel at all. So this step is certainly optional for my more advanced students and is really not required. Once you're finished, don't forget to turn your pot upside down, smooth it out, and sign your name. And we're done. That's how we make a coil pot.
Now, you're going to have the added step of scoring, slipping, and melding handles onto a vase or a handle onto a pitcher or a handle onto a mug. But I did want you to get an overview of what the coiling process is like, give or take, before you jump into it, before you start planning out what your shape is that you're going to make. Okay. So all you're going to be doing today is planning what is that shape going to be? What kind of form do you want to make? Will it be a pitcher? Will it be a mug? Will it be a teacup? Will it be a vase? Where will the convex and concave planes go? What will the handles look like? Then I want you, just like you saw in the video, I want you to sketch the form that you want to make full size. So it's going to be the height at least 6 inches tall, at least 4 inches wide. You can sketch it on notebook paper. And in the demo here, I'm going to show you how I sketched my mug that I plan to make. You can include your handles in your drawing, but you're not going to be using the handles in your drawing for what you're going to be doing with this drawing today. So once you've sketched your form, the size and shape that you want, you're going to find the midpoint, just like he did in the video, and then you're just going to cut out whatever's the better half of your sketch. So it's maybe the right side or the left side, whatever side looks better to you. You're going to cut that out, and then you're going to need a piece of cardboard. I just used the back of a notebook, an old notebook that I was going to throw away anyway, and I'm going to use that, and I'm going to trace and make a template that I can use as I'm shaping this coiled vessel. So all you have to do today, you're not even working with clay today, all you have to do is make this cardboard template, snap a picture of that template so I can see what your plans are, and that's it for today. So really pretty quick assignment for today. So that's what you're going to submit to Schoology. So I'm going to walk you through that process. I know you just saw it in the video, but I'm going to do it real quick here for you as well. So this was the sketch that I did on paper that matches my hair. And it's going to be a mug. I didn't really have room on this paper to sketch the handle, but that's okay because I'm using this to make my template and I can't use the template or use the handle in my template anyway. So I found the midpoint down here and then I just drew another line up here that's at the midpoint. And when I look at this drawing that I did, this is my better side. So I'm going to cut and keep this half of my template. So I have a scissors here. I'm going to cut just half of my mug, the better half. Okay, so that's the good half. And then that is going to go right here in the corner of my cardboard. And I'm going to trace that onto the corner of my cardboard. Oh, I should have told you, by the way. I guess I can show you here. So the height of this template is, oh, dang it. Ms. Schmidt, follow your own directions. It's 5.5 inches tall. Rats. All right. So I'm going to extend my mug another 1/2 inch. Okay. There we go. So I traced, this was the part I traced originally. I just added another 1/2 inch. Dang it. Okay. And then the widest point, let me just verify. The widest point is over 4 inches. Like the shoulder area is actually 4.5 inches. So I met my width requirement. I just didn't initially meet my height requirement. Oopsie cakes. All right. So now I'm going to cut out my half a mug. And that's my template. So that's all you have to do for today. And why don't you on the side tell me, you can write it down, what it is that you plan on making. I don't know if that's backwards. It's backwards for me. It says mug, not gum, mug. So you're going to be snapping a picture of this and that's what you're going to upload today. Remember, you don't include handles in this template. All right, the handle will be something you add later once you've used your template to construct the vessel. Okay, this is it for today. Message me if you have any questions. Thanks for staying awake. Bye.